Welcome to the Enlightened Misfits podcast, the space for entrepreneurs on a quest for unwavering certainty and purpose. I'm your host, Lauren, and each episode is a compass guiding you through authentic conversations, unraveling the mysteries of your human design chart, and offering tools from the remarkable guest. Join me as we embark on a journey to manifest greatness and create a life aligned with our deepest purpose. This is the space where misfits find their enlightenment. Welcome to the Enlightened Misfits podcast. Welcome back to the Enlightened Misfits podcast. I am your host, Lauren. In today's episode, I have Meg. She is a writing and marketing coach. I'm so excited to have you here and chat all about you and what you do. So can you kind of tell us a little bit about who you are and kind of like maybe like the Cliff Notes version, if your story is very long like most of ours, right? Of where, like who you are and like kind of why you are so passionate about helping, business owners write, market, and sell their books on Amazon.
Yes. So I am, as you said, Meg. So happy to be here with you and your listeners. And I just noticed my voice going into podcast mode, and I was like, just be conversational, Meg, be conversational. So, I, for the past 5 years, have been a full-time writing and marketing coach, and I help writers do the deep spiritual work to write, market, and sell an Amazon bestseller on Audible, paperback, and Kindle. I have a team of five people, counting me, six, and we take care of every single need that a writer needs. And so we take care of the boring logistical nuts and bolts stuff of the divine masculine type of work. So the writer is free to show up in the divine feminine and spontaneously, creatively, messily create and hear the muse. And so Cliff Notes version.
You can tell your full version. I was just saying,
No.
some people are like, where did
Yes, I will not tell the I think I timed this once and it was like a 6-minute answer. And I was like, I really got to shorten when the host asked me my story. So, Cliff Notes, I think like many people who were very intuitive at an early age and very sensitive, there was big T and little t trauma for my whole family and me. I always feel a need to say the whole family was going through stuff. So I'm not showing up as the victim. Like my mom was, everyone was a victim in the situation, basically. But so by the time I was 6, I was invited by my mom, her secretary at work, invited me to sing in her church choir, which was a all African American gospel choir. And here I was, the white person in the choir, a little white girl with brown braids. My mom had done. And I remember singing in that choir and swaying. And in that moment, having a very mystical healing moment with the palpable presence of God who heals all wounds. And I knew that I was going to be okay. And I became addicted to church at that age. So when I was 13, my missionary grandparents would take me around and I would preach. Now I know I was most definitely channeling, but I would write sermons and I would sing at these conferences and mission trips. So I was getting applause and affirmation and love from the church that in that season of my family's life, I wasn't getting at home. And so I did become addicted to it, and good came from it. And it was all meant to be. My soul agreed to it before I came, all the things. But it was also not very, from the 3D perspective, it wasn't healthy. that was the because that began wiring me, obviously, the narrative that in order to be worth loving, I have to be preaching and singing. That is my talent is the only reason I'm lovable. So that continued. 17, became a paid church staff member, went on to do college and seminary, became a minister, 15 years in ministry full time. When I was 28, my same grandmother who groomed me to be a pastor took me to a somatic Enneagram retreat. And at that retreat, it was phenomenal. It was so healing. And the facilitator asked me, being an Enneagram 3 with a 2 wing, she asked me, Meg, what is something you could do all day and nobody saw you do it and nobody was there to applaud you and it would still give you pleasure? What would that be? And I knew it. I didn't even have to think about it. It was writing. And that brought me so much pleasure. And then I wanted to become a mom. So in the next 2 years, I wrote my first book and had a baby. And from that point on of the journey, the book, the first book, like it does for people that want it to, the book opened up opportunities for speaking gigs and coaching opportunities. And I loved that one-on-one work with people. But then there also became something that broke my heart, which so many times happens to us entrepreneurs, is something pisses us off so much that we have to do something about it. And if we're wired to be entrepreneurs, we start a business to solve that problem. What broke my heart was so many overly religious people started coming up to me after the first book came out, and they would whisper with lots of shame that they too had a book idea, but they felt it was egotistical to market. They felt it was greedy and slimy to monetize. They thought that, like I thought forever, that it was not safe for them to trust their desires, and their desire was to write. But could they? The church had skewed their views so much that they didn't think it was safe to trust their own desires. And so it broke my heart that so many amazingly healing and helpful books were never going to be published because they were stuck inside of a very religious, indoctrinated person. And so I launched my business. I went on the I left ministry in December of 18, and I knew I wanted to be a full-time coach to help put more helpful, spiritually attuned books out in the world. But I knew I needed a bridge. So I went to a friend who ran a nonprofit, and I told him, I just need something for a year or two while I start my business on the side. So I did marketing for a nonprofit, continued to grow my skills. And then January of 20 launched my business as part-time, and August of 21 went full-time. And I just signed my 66th client last week, which is so exciting to think about. 66 really helpful healing books being in the world now. So
Right.
those are cliff notes. Those are long cliff notes.
No, that there's so much. There's just so much there, that especially ending on like the powerful number 6. Like that is,
Oh,
you know,
yes, yes.
yeah, like when we're thinking about like, numerology, I understand from the perspective of maybe from the lens of like religion, 6 is not
Mm-hmm.
good, like 666 for being like the devil or whatever, that thing. But
Yeah.
and that's, I have a very similar story from coming from like a very toxic, mine was more of like a very toxic Catholic religion. It's like
Mm.
you have to obey. So for me to like come out and basically do my business, like,
Yeah.
5 years ago, 4 years ago, it was scary. And I
Mm.
feel there was a lot of shame and guilt. And maybe even still now, like, I don't feel it, but from my family of like, why are you doing that? You left this very successful 9 to 5 job. I was a high risk OB ultrasound tech, went to college for it. I was healing in a different way, helping,
Mm-hmm.
people heal. And you're right. Like, it's like there comes to a point that I'm just like, this is my soul did not, my soul signed up for this, but only to this point, and I can't go
Right.
further. Or I'm going to start projecting my own wounds, pain, and everything else on other people, and they don't
Mm.
deserve that. That's not
Mm-hmm.
that's not my purpose here, and that's not what's going to happen.
Yes.
So yeah,
Yes.
I do your story, your Cliff Notes story, your story. It's very powerful. Like, especially, beyond the writing, like writing impactful books or helping people
Mm.
write those impactful books. I feel like many business
Yeah.
owners, and I feel like a lot of people that are going to be listening to this, are going to be like, oh my goodness, I need to go reach out to her, because I do have a story within myself and I don't know how to get it out besides
Mm-hmm.
having a business and creating the content. And that's part of the story. And this is my services. But um, the key one thing that you said was, like, how, if somebody's listening to this, how do you kind of guide them into structuring their book so they don't have to figure it out? Like, so it's not just like a collection of ideas, but like a more
Mm.
transformational experience for the readers.
Yes. So that is definitely part of the partnership is I create with them a template for their book that is the utmost readable, relatable, retainable, and highly marketable. And so don't have to ever show up to write night or write day when they have a sitter, and they don't have to think, what am I going to write? They have a template. So there's very little room for self-doubt to slip in and the inner critic to start talking when you have a plan. And so right now, I help people just write memoirs or works of nonfiction. And I'm working with a fiction coach myself to learn that art. And my third book, which it will be a work of fiction. And I'm hoping for it to be an allegory of the reunion of the divine masculine and the divine feminine within a person. But that'll come out much later. So the question is, how do I help them lay out? I'll pause. Did that answer it?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
No, I was
perfect.
just kind of like, yeah,
Yeah.
that answered it.
Yep, they get a whole template with me. Yep.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about the books that you have. You said you have 2 books, 3 books.
I have 2 out, and then I'm starting my third, and
Okay.
I'm in the middle of my third. Yep.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about your books. So what's the first?
Yeah. So the first one, it came to, like so many ideas for books, it came to me in the form of a question. And I was in seminary and I was being trained that the parent is the primary faith nurturer of their child's life. So my role is to equip the parent first and foremost. But what bugged me was an area of holy discontent for me was I couldn't stop thinking about the kids of abuse or neglect who in different seasons of their lives, their parents might not be able to be spiritually nurturing to them. What about those kids? And so that question led to a paper in seminary that I added to and became a book. And so the book is called The Bluebonnet Child: Finding Grace in Poor Soil. And it is a how-to guide. It's nonfiction, a how-to guide to offer kids hope whose home lives seem hopeless. And because that was my emphasis in ministry, was serving kids of neglect and abuse and building up families and volunteer teams to build programs for kids. So that book came out of that time. And the metaphor, if you will, of the Bluebonnet Child came from my grandfather, who I love so, so much, and was one father figure to me.
Okay.
And he looks like God took Popeye and Tommy Lee Jones and mashed them together. He's still ripped. He's still ripped, but he's 83. He's just amazing, and big Southern drawl, because I'm from Texas originally. And when I was in seminary, he's a master gardener. His gardens are always beautiful. And we were driving down the highway in Texas, and it was April. There were tons of bluebonnets on the highway. And he said, "Golly, Maggie Lee," my real name is Maggie Lee. "Golly, Maggie Lee, it's a wonder those bluebonnets are so beautiful. That's the dirtiest, worst, most unhealthy soil." And so it got me thinking, like, this is fascinating, because again, on the 5D level, I do have the belief that we do choose our family. And however, 3D perspective, kids don't get to choose their family. We don't get to choose the soil we're planted into. But despite our poor soil, we can still blossom beautifully. I used the language because that was written in 2016. I wrote that one. So I used the language that we must shower them with God's healing love in their lives. And that could be the church, the school, the YMCA. These can show up as supplemental family to kids of abuse and neglect. So that was the first book.
Okay. I love that. Now I already know is it your second book? It's the lies that people tell. Like, what is the 5 lies? What is that your second book?
No, that was a topic we can definitely, I love discussing, that 5 lies.
Oh, okay. Okay. No,
yes.
I personally know, because you sent, your topics over.
Yes.
So
Yeah. Totally.
Talk about the 5 lies, because I feel like that could also tie into.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can you kind of walk us through the common myths and how somebody would overcome them?
Yes. And so remind me, because I know that I erupted as a volcano and I sent you like tons of possible topics. So what was this again? The 5
lies the 5 lies that keep people from writing.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
So yeah, I was gonna say maybe that I was like, I thought it was a book or something that you wrote, but maybe it was just like a blog or some type of content that you wrote.
Yes. Okay. One of them that's coming to me is they have the belief that their book idea, and I'll pause in between these for any conversation that bubbles up. They have the belief that there's nothing new under the sun, and that their book idea has already been written by a more talented, sexier, big name author out there. And I can bust that myth if you want me to.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say no. I'm actually just like from me. I'm thinking like from the one book that I was an author in.
Right.
I was thinking back to, did I have that same belief? I think, and I was just, I did, because all of the other women that I was with, I was newly on my. I mean, I always joke and say that I was like born, like I just came into this world and I'm like, I just see through the veil kind of thing. But it's like, I remember when I was a kid, I remember stuff. It's like now uncovering all that trauma and stuff that, I chose to go through that life experience, that I'm like, I just joke and say that I have always been conscious. I came out of my mom and I was conscious, not really, but like, but then, I look at other, and I feel like a lot of people do this, in my book, when I was writing the book, that was a self-doubt kept coming in, who cares about my story? Who do I think I am that I can help people? Like that was and I'm sure people that are thinking about writing a book, and not just like a co-author book, because that was like this, I know that I have like another big story inside of me that I will write my own story by myself, not by myself, but like it's just me about me. Yeah. And like, I can offer, I'm not doing this, I have no interest in doing it by myself, that's not me, but just like that was like a start and a glimpse of, I liked the process. I liked that, I could work with other women. There's so many different, friendships that I gained from doing that with the other women too. And like hearing their stories, but I was the youngest in the group, literally youngest in the group. And I think a couple of them had said to me, wow, you are so young and you have so much life experience. And in that time, I'm like, I know, I can feel it. Like, yes, I can feel it. And even some of my like old friends, they'd be like, why is your life so hard? And I would be like, I don't know how to answer that question. What do you mean? I just thought this is how everybody's life was, but then seeing I'm different, which is why I'm like, I'm not different than everybody else, like that I'm meeting now or that I've met the last 5 years, but the people that like in society, they don't understand because they haven't experienced things like that, because they don't need to experience things like that. You know what I mean? So it's always like, I always felt like I didn't belong. I always felt like, and I think so many other people are like, I don't feel like I belong either. I'm not from here. I was like, I don't think anybody's from here, but sometimes you fit in, sometimes you don't. Like, it's just, that. So yeah, I definitely, without going off topic, I definitely feel like when that myth that I came, like when somebody said you should write a story, I'm like, my story, what do you mean? And then I started, kind of diving into that, and I'm like, wow, it really changed my perspective in my book of that 3D version, that lens of 3D versus 5D. And it's like, I can actually pull myself in and out, obviously, to see I have to, operate in the 3D. Obviously, all of us do. We can't just stay in the 5D. But it's like the same thing with like New Earth and, the 3D paradigm shifting and this moment, that you have to experience the 3D. You have to experience all of that. You have to experience the victim mentality, right? To be able to experience the victor mentality, or that the other side of it, which would be abundance,
Hey there, I just wanted to take a quick moment to share with all of you spiritual rebels and fempreneurs. If you've been craving a space where you can build wealth, heal trauma, and rise alongside like-minded women, I got something for you to hear about. I'm excited to invite you into the Enlightened Misfits Sisterhood. This is a low-cost, high-impact group membership designed exclusively for spiritual fempreneurs who know they need accountability and support to create sustainable wealth, but aren't ready to dive into a one-on-one mentorship. In this membership, you'll get monthly calls, rituals, healing sessions, and workshops to break through your self-doubt and build confidence so that you can consistently sell your offers and make money. This is also a collaborative private Facebook community where you make lifelong connections with other women who are just as serious as hitting their goals. And my personal guidance as your intuitive human design business guide and trauma healer, ensuring you stay aligned and on track with your business goals. Plus, you'll get free access to all my paid workshops and masterclasses, along with exclusive VIP pricing for my one-on-one Voxer membership. This membership is all about helping you heal the sabotaging behaviors blocking your abundance and using your human design to create a business that feels amazing to run. Imagine waking up excited to serve your clients and knowing that you have the exact support you need to hit every single one of your business goals every single month. So if you're ready to rise and build wealth with a sisterhood of spiritual misfits, make sure you click the registration link in the description box. Right now, the investment is just $88 a month, but the price will increase to $197 a month. Join today to unlock exclusive rates and get access to next month's kickoff call. Let's get back to today's episode, but remember, your next level is just one decision away. Join the sisterhood and let's rise together.
Yes. Well, it's like we were saying before we went on air that the timing that the book calls us to write it is always perfect, that you and I and every author who's writing the most transformational book possible, their soul is waiting till like we talked about Nadia Bolz-Weber, their soul's waiting till they're in a place they can teach from their scars and not from their wounds. And I think there are lots of books out there written from wounds, and the frequency of the pages drip of that. And then you read books where this person's teaching from their scars, and none is. I always invite none is better than the other. I invite the author to sit in that question when a moment pops up of, oh, this energy doesn't feel clean around this memory you want to share. Is the book calling you to forgive? Do we need to spend a week and not write, but just work on the energy around this memory? And let's check in. Where does the book, because I have the belief that there's three divine energies involved in book writing. There's the divine moves in the author, the divine moves in the book idea. It has its own energy, and the divine moves through me. And if I'm doing my job right, I'm intuitively connected to the author, but also the book. And sometimes the book will tell us, no, this energy doesn't need to be cleaned up before this book is published, or yeah, please clean this up before you write about it. And so there, the timing is always perfect, and there's no right or wrong way to write when it comes to, do I need to clean this up first or do I not before I write?
Yeah, I love that you explain that too, because I feel like could be listeners or even like me, that do have that book inside of them, but have to continue to do, like, maybe it's not the right time. I feel like your soul will push you, like,
Right.
that us
Yeah,
souls do,
totally.
like, will push us to do things because it's like our human side is what needs help. And I often, uh, often think to myself and have been thinking to myself that, when I work with my own clients or when I like work with different people, I'm like, your soul does not need my help. Your humanness needs my help. So
Wow.
we're gonna, like, I know this might be a little bit off topic from the 5 myths, but you being a marketing coach, I know that this is how you, not that I categorize myself as a marketing coach, but being an intuitive human design guide, I help
Right.
people actually open up to their gifts and their soul, and like through the lens of human design and astrology, because I feel like that is like the blueprint in a sense. Like, it's just a system that I use.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've noticed within myself is I couldn't access my zone of genius. My soul would not allow me to access that until I got through the trauma, or until
Mm-hmm.
I experienced, like, because I had to experience being a 6'2" profile in human design, The 6-2 is just the role model, and then it's the hermit. So I can't be in role model, the energy of a role model, if I haven't sat in hermit energy. And there's sometimes that I have to sit in hermit energy, yeah, a lot. And so that, in my mind, I understand it through the lens of human design, but that's literally what you're saying. Like, you're literally saying that you have to sit in solitude. And that's, forget about human design or forget about any of that. Like, you have to sit in that energy of going within. And, if not, you're just projecting, regardless if you're a projector in human design. People that know human design, like, humans project. So it's like, it's just the energy. So it's like, if you're projecting that energy of, I'm hurt, you're going to hurt other people. So, it's like, and not consciously. Well, I mean, I guess sometimes people consciously do it, but most of us that are spiritual aligned, most of us in this community, or if you're listening to this, maybe you want to stop projecting or something like that, but it's like, consciously, I don't think any of us consciously really truly want to hurt people. It's just that trauma is in the way and you can't see past it. So yeah, thank you for that. I definitely,
Oh, yes,
that's definitely a huge, powerful, like, oh my goodness, like, I actually have a story inside of me, and that could also probably be for you, like a writer's block or something, like, could be like a big, with being like creative and talking about writer's block. I feel like I'm not a writer. So when it comes to content for me, even like in my own just content, I love getting on video and literally just getting on video because it's easier. It flows. And there's no like resistance. And I literally just turn that into like an actual post or like actual content.
Totally.
I am really good at speaking. I love speaking.
Yeah, you
but
are.
When it comes to actually, like, even my own mentors, like, okay, so write that in a post, and I'm like, what the fuck? What do you mean? And I was like, oh, okay, I can see it. I'm gonna do this easy way. I'm gonna see it, and I'm gonna just write what I literally said. I'm gonna write it down, and that's what it's gonna be. That, I feel like there's less resistance. The energy is there because the energy was there in my video. And then it's just like, sometimes I do feel like, does anybody really want to hear this? But I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to assume that people do. And most of the time when I come from that place of creativity, they do, So
yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about unconventional techniques that you would use, like, to help, like, if a writer is listening to this, tap into their own creativity so they can break free from that self-doubt?
Yes. And yeah, I was gonna say that I'm so thankful that you post, you ship it, even though there is self-doubt present, that you don't let your feelings do you do them, if you will. And because I have the belief in everyone that I attract to work with through my messaging and marketing, they're all people of compassion and integrity. So what that means is, if the book idea is getting louder, or the post idea, the real idea is getting louder within them, it's because someone outside of them desperately needs the help that only you can give through your unique style and scars and perspective and curation of ideas. So I'm so thankful that you ship it anyway. That's such an inspiration to everyone that's waiting for it to be perfect. Or is this just me? Do other people need this? Like, yeah, if the idea is getting louder, quantum physics, we're all connected, baby. It's because the need is growing for it.
It took me a very long time. Yeah, it took me a very long time to have that confidence that I'm just like, who cares? So I literally just have to say to myself, who cares? If nobody wants to see it, nobody's going to see it. But it's those times that I literally just listen to my intuition. It's like, Lauren, push it, just do it.
Yeah.
And I do it. And I'm starting to, even now, like, I have to be completely honest and transparent. And like, I always am. And most of my clients are like, gosh, you're just so real. I'm like, well, I don't know really how else to be, like, not in my nature to figure out how to be somebody else. I mean, I did that part of my experience, and it's like, this feels disgusting. So it's like,
you're like, I'm done with that.
So it's like, when I do, and it's not all the time. Like, sometimes I'll get an idea, I'll write it down, and I'll put it in my journal, or I'll put it in my notes, and then I'll put it in my drafts, or I'm like, this doesn't feel right. I'm not going to post it right now. And it's like that moment that I have, like, post it. it's like that's what, and I think that's what society, like, and a lot of entrepreneurs feel like every single day they have to post, and it's just like, that's not true. You don't have to
Mhm.
do that to be present. Nobody is going to forget about you. I often feel like I had a mentor that literally said that you get lost, like you get, if you don't post every day, that people forget about you. And I'm like, well, then I don't want to, they don't, then I don't want, then they're not for me. Like when she
Mhm.
said that to me, I'm like, do you really tell everybody this? That's so discrediting. And like, that's so much shame and guilt if you don't post every day. Because I know for me
Mhm.
being a projector in human design and just how my energy flows, just my natural energy, I'm
Right.
not supposed to be present every day. And people
Mhm.
don't forget about me. That is, I've proved that fact, that theory to be wrong. And I feel like
Mhm.
I wish people would stop saying that. Like, I wish people would actually tap into their own energy and figure out, you know, what works and what doesn't for them, and stop teaching from, like you said, a place of wounds. But I mean, I guess that's how we learn, right? Like, I can't,
Mhm.
yeah, shouldn't say that, but that's just that's
Yeah.
just on it.
Right. Every step we took in the past was good, and God brought some good from it. And now where do we want to go in the future?
Yeah.
Are we where we want to be right now? Sometimes the answer is no. And so then
Right.
what do you want to do differently moving forward?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yes. With your question about self-doubt, I've experienced four main types of writer's block. And so I can say those really, really quickly. And if that serves. Do you want me to say that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like
And because
that would be huge for people listening. Yeah.
yeah, because then the solution is different for each of these blocks. So one of them, the most popular one, is they're afraid to offend or lose respect of someone they love, whether that's a parent, a pastor, a guardian, a mentor, whatever it is. They want to either share a memory or they want to teach something that's going to be blasphemous. And they're afraid if I lose respect and love of those people, I'm out of the tribe. I won't belong. I'll be lonely. So that's a block. The other block is they don't want to relive the memory that the book wants them to write about. And so it's hard to, and that depends on the healing journey of going from wound to scar. Where are they? And so if they haven't made it to scar yet, it can be hard to go back and relive it when the book is telling us to. And on my first call, my first official Zoom session with every client, I asked them 10 intuitive questions about the book. And the last question every author knows the answer to. And that is, what is something the book wants you to write, but you are afraid to write it? And every author I've asked that question, including myself, knows that answer. And what's so beautiful is sometimes that part ends up in the book, sometimes it doesn't. But regardless, we go there. And the deep healing work that happens with that moment, as I'm sure you're familiar with, and all the work you do with trauma healing, it makes the book better just by going there and revisiting that and possibly reframing it and sitting in the bottom of the pit of our pain around it. It improves the whole book, even if we don't put that in the books, but it matters. So they don't want to relive it. That's a second block. Third block is we are not mindful during the day. And so we're not in the divine feminine during the day. And so we don't notice smells. We don't allow people to help us or nurture us through safe and healthy touch. We're not using our senses to be moved throughout the day. And we're so in the hustle grind of divine masculine. And then we show up to the keys or we pick up the pen and all of a sudden we're like, okay, muse, I'm ready. Inspire me. We just want to turn it on. But the secret is if it's turned on all day, if we're mindful all day, the muse will speak louder and quicker when we go to the keys. And then the last block is um, this could be under an umbrella of another block, but I like to keep it separate. And that is the block of there is a limiting belief about the author's identity flowing through their veins. So either they have a narrative running subconsciously that is, I'm the pretty sister, not the smart sister. That's Elizabeth. And because obviously um, childhood stuff, there's something coming up about that identity. I'm not, oh no, I'm a, I'm trying to think of a personality test. I'm a 7. I'm a 7 on the Enneagram. I'm all about fun. There's no way I can be detail oriented and write a book. And so there's something in their identity that is a block that we get to reframe. So those are the four main blocks that I see.
Okay. Now, do you help them work? So obviously,
Mm-hmm.
you help them work through all of this to help them kind of get
Yes.
out. Okay. So you're
Yep.
kind of like helping them, you're like kind of like helping them heal at the same time of helping them get that in the book. And so you just like you're
Yes.
multifaceted. You're helping
Yes.
them market it and write the book. And yes, I feel like, healing through writing. I I think of when I said earlier when I was like I'm not good at writing, that's obviously a block for me. But I am good at writing because I can look back at my journals and if I turn my journals literally all into a book, it would
Mm-hmm.
actually be a book.
Yeah.
When I
Why don't you think you're good at writing?
um
Or in your mind, what is it not currently that it needs to be in order for it to be good?
I think it was like the first one that you said, the first block, right?
Okay.
Like
Oh,
when
you don't want to lose respect of those that
yes.
yep.
I feel like that's even when I post content, that's actually have been for me. And I feel like so many of my clients lately, because I have worked with people that are really good at making content and when I work with them and like, it's like reflected back to me, what I have done or when I wrote this book, I even gave like disclaimer to my family that I knew was going to read this book or my story in the chapter that I wrote in this story, because it was just a chapter, a very short chapter of pretty much my experience up until then, that I felt like I had to give a disclaimer, like, because they are in victim mentality and they don't understand. Even to this day, they don't understand why I do what I do, which is I've accepted that more and I've allowed that just to be. Like I just let them
Mm-hmm.
be and let them think or whatever. I mean, my parents are more, out of everybody in my entire family, like cousins, immediate family, close family, they're the most open to it because they've watched me for the last 5 years, and it's very eye-opening to them that they kind of take on, they might not take my advice, and I don't usually give them advice when it's not asked for, and they don't normally ask me for my advice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still looked at as the conspiracy theorist kind of thing, just because of their own limiting beliefs, and that's kind of like the story that has been the whole story my whole life. So I feel like now it's, they'll say different stuff, my immediate family, my cousins, whatever, that like, I'm crazy for doing this, I'm crazy for doing that. But in my journey now, I'm kind of just like, whatever, that's not about me, that's about them. But in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning, I did take it on as, I don't want to post this because of this. And I've noticed that actually clients are saying the same thing to me recently. I'm like, why don't you post that? That
Mm-hmm.
actually could get people, if they're not making sales or they're not doing this or they're not doing that. I'm like, but why are you not posting that? And then I get them to tell me exactly what I literally just told you, because that is what I knew. I know it's that because I know I do that. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I know that they do that too. It's not, but it's also not my place to tell them, you know what I mean? Like what it is. So I think that recently has been, or maybe a story that I need to clear up, like within myself about, it doesn't matter about anybody else. It matters about what I need to speak or the wisdom that I should share. That's my long answer to
Yeah.
that.
It it's so fascinating that I've experienced everything you just said, and I see it in other authors I serve too. It's fascinating to me that the voice of the inner critic it's never our target audience. And so when I could name three people locally, I lived for 21 years now. I've lived in a very small town of almost 12,000 people in Kansas. And I
Okay.
was a minister here. I moved here at 18. I'm 39 in June. So I grew up here. And
Yeah.
there's still about three people who they pop in my head when I'm writing something very metaphysical. I'm a 1-3. I'm a generator and on human design. So the three in me, if I remember right, I like it. I was put here in this incarnation to rock the boat with some things I say, and it's been fun to live into that. But there's three people that they come into my head still. And I sit and I notice it like, oh, that's interesting. That's still coming up. I thought I healed that. And then I ask myself, Meg, are they your target audience? Are they who God called you to serve? They are not. They're not my target audience for my books or as clients I want to partner with. They're not. And then I check in with myself. What former story is this? It's like, okay, they are part of the Methodist Church that since I was a kid, I earned love from. And that was then. I'm not 13 anymore, preaching behind a pulpit that I can hardly reach the microphone. I'm almost fucking 40. I'm a grown woman. That was then. This is now. I thank you. You made me a hard worker, inner critics, but you're not needed anymore. So I have felt everything that you feel, and it's so helpful for me to just remind myself there. And I have yet to meet an author that the inner critic that's in here, whether it's a parent or a pastor or a mentor, that person is never the target market. It's so, isn't that fascinating?
Yeah, I was going to say, yes, as soon as you said that, you're right. And that's, I think I've actually said that literally when I was thinking, like, when I think about it, like for like guidance or advice or something for them, I'm like, what did I do? Like when I would write
Oh, yeah.
different stuff or whatever, like what did I used to do? Or,
Mm-hmm.
because I worked, I think all of us can kind of resonate. Anybody listening can resonate that we worked so hard on our inner critic, but it's never going
Yeah.
to go away. We just have to control it and put boundaries around it. And at least
Right.
I know
Well
that's what
said.
I did. Like I had to when she would come up or whatever, we higher self, whatever you want to call it, ego, like subconscious, whatever it is, like whatever you call it. I had to
Right.
like you're not like I had to acknowledge, not reject, but acknowledge that you're here to protect me. I understand this, but this is not needed. And I noticed myself to actually say that, maybe even out loud, that like you're not needed. You're not needed right now. And
I
it's
love
like
that.
the same way that I do it with my daughter. Like, she's actually helped me. Like, she'll never really know how big of a teacher she's been and will continue to be for me because she's 5.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually I tell her all this stuff. Like, eventually I'll be able to have a conversation consciously that she'll be able to understand,
Mm-hmm.
at her consciousness level. But I feel like when she'll say different stuff, it's like a reflection of my own inner child of like, mommy, listen to me, or you're not paying attention because I'm like maybe busy doing this, or maybe I think that I have to go do this, or I have to clean the house, or I have to do this. Everything has to be done, for whatever. But it's like she reminds me of my own inner child, like of like,
Mm-hmm.
you're rejecting me or you're not listening to me. But
Yeah.
sometimes it's just like that boundary needs to be placed because I feel like a lot of us right now with our inner childs, especially with Venus in retrograde, it's all about that love. And when you talked about earning love and being able to perform for love, I think it's huge and it speaks volumes for, just March in general and the energy in astrology, that it's like
Mm-hmm.
so many of us are starting to realize that we're not giving ourselves that love, or we're using a past story from our parents, or
Mm-hmm.
how we had to perform for love. And it's like it's just really like empowering when you had said that, like when you also had to perform to feel loved. And it's
Yeah.
like now you're not in that space performing to feel loved. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
but your inner child is still going to bring that up to you, and you're like, why? Sometimes I'm like, we're not doing this right now. I'm not doing this right now. Like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I feel like I catch myself saying that with my daughter, but like with myself, like I'm not doing this right now. You're not needed. I love you,
Mm-hmm.
but you're not needed. And it just like
That's so good.
down. Yeah, like it's just
Yeah.
quiets down because it's
Mm-hmm.
literally a mirror to me of like, oh, remember that one time. Well, yes, I do remember that one time, but that one time is not now. It's this, like everything that you said. So that is very, very, very powerful. Yeah.
Oh, that's so amazing how you lead that part of yourself.
Yeah.
That's
Lots of
wow.
practice,
Yes.
practice, continued practice. But I feel like now that I understand it, it's like when I hear people talk, when there's so many other mentors that I listen to, like,
Mm-hmm.
so like reading books, like literally just reading books, or like people's experiences, or, all those big gurus that speak about all that, like, all that stuff, that I'm just like, wow. So it's not, they're, obviously they're humans just like us. They just have, they're just in a different space doing whatever. But at the end of the day, if it's a heart-centered, person that you can see and not more like egotistical, I should say, or like ego-based, that you can be just like them if you want to be, and just in a different way. It's not like you can't be like them because they're Mel Robbins or they're, Gary Vee, love him. But both of them, two of those people, Mel Robbins and Gary Vee, will literally say, you guys can do it. They make it seem like they're your friends. You've never physically met them in person, but they're your friend. Like, it's like, true. Wow, you're my friend. Thanks, friend. Like, but that's the people that I like to follow, because they give me the hope of, hey, at the end of the day, I'm just human too, like we're all human, we're all connected, we're all supposed to be, it's that division, that the scarcity and like the fear and stuff that society is controlled by, right? So
yes. That's so yeah, my first book would not exist without Mel Robbins. Her TED Talk, The Brain Screwing Us Over, circa 15 or 14, I came out. Learning that 5-second rule about my brain. I highly recommend that to readers who, it's an 18-minute TED Talk, How the Brain is Screwing Us Over. It changed everything for me. I sent her team a copy of my first book, and because she was so influential. And I realized I didn't give an exercise. And so if the block is, I'm afraid to write this because I'm going to lose respect or love from people who I respect and love, one exercise we do is we write 2 versions of that scene. And the first version is we put ourselves in the head and heart space that we can do no wrong in that person's eyes. They are sitting beside us, applauding us. They're so happy. We're going to help others with this. And then we notice as we're writing it, we notice how our body feels. We probably feel at peace. And our shoulders probably feel open. There's probably a lightness to our chest. We feel tingling in our ears of pleasure, and because we're just writing unfiltered, even if it's an uncomfortable memory, we're just writing the truth, and we're not editing. And we notice how flow comes quicker, the state of flow comes quicker, and then we put that chapter aside, and then we write a version where the person we're worried about offending or losing their respect, that they are sitting at the table with us, and their arms are crossed, and they're shaking their heads in disappointment at us. And then we notice, what physical sensations am I feeling in my body? And we go to that super helpful body emotion graph on Google that helps. It was this amazing study they did on thousands of people that showed, I can't remember the name of the university, but the study showed that every human has the same physical sensation for certain emotions. And so shoulder and around our heart is sadness, jaw and tightness in the jaw, and forehead anger. It's a fascinating chart. I highly recommend looking it up, body emotion graph. And we look at that, and then we as we're writing, seeking permission from these people at the table shaking their heads at us, whether it be a pastor or parent, we then go to the body graph and we name what emotion is coming up for us. Is it anger? Is it shame? Is it sadness? And then we go to the pit of that feeling, and we feel it till, probably just like you teach, we feel it. We put a sound to it. We put an action to it till we transmute it and get it up and out. And then what usually happens, if the person can even feel so led to finish the second version of the chapter, which usually they don't, because the first chapter felt so right to just tell the truth. Then we decide, is this relation, we're going to go with the first version of the chapter. Then the author gets to check in. We have 2 options now. Is the relationship with that person worth saving? And you have to keep seeing that person in your life. If that is the case, then there is a sweaty palm conversation that gets to happen, not from a place of permission, but from a place of just acknowledgement, because you do have love for them. And you could even decide to change the name, change the gender, whatnot, but they might still know it's them. Now, if it's about a person that it's not safe to be around them anymore, there is no relationship whatsoever, then no sweaty palm conversation needs to happen. And then my team and I just make sure that you won't be sued for libel with other technical techniques we'll teach you. So that exercise really, really helps people.
Yeah, I was gonna say when you were saying that exercise, it was very similar to when I was writing my chapter because I did not go through my divorce, my custody. My divorce was final, but then it's like the custody part.
Mm-hmm.
So when I had to speak about my ex-husband, my biggest thing was, but what if he knows? She's like, it doesn't matter. We're not putting his name. He can't bring this to court. And if he does bring it to court, there's nothing that, obviously legal, like you said, there's nothing that they could do. He knows it's him. And it's not like I was ever bashing him. And believe it or not, now that it's like 5 years later, he did bring it up and he brought it to court. And all I said to him was, at that point, it was like years after that I published it, I said, well, thank you for supporting me because you bought my book. You supported me and you read my story.
Yeah.
So like literally, it's funny that you say that because I'm like, I literally just said my daughter's dad. That could be him. You know what I mean? Like, as
yes.
who you are, right?
You didn't tag him. You didn't tag his Instagram profile.
Yeah. Like I didn't say your full name for defamation of character. I'm like, what is this? And then my lawyer was just laughing. I was like, because it was funny because she's like, I knew this was going to happen. I said, I knew it because I told the girl that I was writing the book with, like,
yes.
It's just wild, but that's just, and then literally I think something about like not word for word, but like the judge had said, well, I'm glad that she's getting her story out because she can tell it from her perspective no matter what. And I wish more people would go down the path of healing. That's literally what she said. And she was directing that to him. She's actually kind of nudging him. Like, I'm glad that she's going down the path of healing.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you wrote that.
Yes. Yeah. I often sometimes, now that we're talking more about it, I actually forgot that like I wrote a chapter in a book, like with all these amazing women. It's just kind of like, I wrote it and then, the thought of maybe making my own book one day has been popping up in my mind, not strong enough, but like it has been like one day I'm going to write my own book about, because I'm so passionate about human design. And I literally, I had a dream, which I know it's obviously a vision probably at some point, but like a TED Talk and helping people understand that if they just understood their human design, like they don't need to understand everything else. Obviously they do, but like, like I truly believe that's how passionate that human design has helped me in my own book or my own life, that I feel like if people just read that and like giving the tools and tips and all that stuff, I feel like you can change your whole life. Like just in reading a book. It's kind of like Robin's, like, like her books kind of thing, like how they like something just like this really quick thing. That, like the let them theory, love that theory. I think I learned that a while ago. Love that her new book that came out, it's just like another reminder of like, oh, okay. Somebody like Mel Robbins actually lives an actual 3D life and she goes through she has made these tools, tips, and all this stuff up for herself. And she's sharing them because why would she gatekeep them? Right. Because they can change your life.
Yeah. Right. Oh, have you seen her podcast interview where she talks about the medium that changed her life?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That was because I've loved her forever and I don't listen to her podcast, but that one came up on YouTube and I was like, oh, I didn't know Mel Robbins was open to the metaphysical side of life. So when I heard that story, she shared about what the medium spoke over her about her husband's dad who was in the military and helped them make a decision that made Mel Robbins' son so happy, better, more at peace than she's ever seen him because she trusted the medium. And what a skeptic she was before. I was like,
yeah. I always thought that there was some like, when I would like first started to like, like I read her the 5 second rule and like books and stuff like that. or like counting down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And like literally, I was like, you know what? There's no way. There's just no way. Same thing with like the first book I ever read was The Secret. And I'm like, there's no fucking way this shit works. There's just no way. I tried it. I did it before. I did this, whatever. So I actually consistently did it. And I still feel like sometimes when I really don't want to do something, I'm like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'm just going to do it. Like even sometimes it's like getting out of bed, or it's like, doing something like that I know I need to do that I've already procrastinated, like hashtag I'm the biggest procrastinator. When I don't really want to do something, but I know I need to do it, that type of thing, that I just do
Same.
it. And it's just like, wow, that's actually not so hard. Or if it's I have this story, I'm notorious for having these stories that I make up in my head, right? And then, actually just I'm like, whatever, I'm not going to listen to that story, and actually just doing it. And then proving to myself that, oh, that was literally just a story and I'm just assuming. And I always say, like, assuming makes like if you keep assuming, you're making yourself an asshole. Like literally, like stop doing that, because you're making yourself look like an asshole if you just assume and you have no solid evidence, no solid proof, because that probably is the story in your head. It's a big lesson.
So true. Such a huge lesson. Yes. Yes. So
just
many key. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no. Yeah. So much drama and trouble and confusion would be prevented if we didn't assume. Totally. 100%. I agree.
So speaking about big lessons, so like reflecting on your journey as like a best-selling author and writing coach, what is your big lesson that you've learned that you wish more business owners knew before starting?
Things that are coming to me is the Rumi quote, that which you seek is also seeking you. And so because of that, you can trust your desires that they are safe. Your desires are safe. Every expression of you is safe, whether that is marketing or writing. I believe that authors are artists, and that is something that large language models, which I learned recently is the fancy word for ChatGPT. That is something that ChatGPT and other tools will never be able to replicate, is the connection that the author has with the muse, and us doing our job to intuitively hear the book, hear the muse. So that piece of advice is trust your desires. They are safe, and every expression of you is beautiful and is needed. And so that leaves room for that taking that state, choosing to believe that, pardon me, blah 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 blah, choosing to believe that gets rid of this fear of doing it wrong. And I love to tell this short story. When I was a junior in high school, I sang the national anthem at the Special Olympics in Maybank, Texas. And I had a microphone, but there was a metal amphitheater behind me, and then metal stands. And somehow when I sang, an echo was created. So I would say, "Oh, say, can you see?" And it would reverberate right back to me, so loud, so loud. And for my sake, I just froze for a second, but then I kept singing, and I would pause, wait for that to go away. Then I would sing the next line, and I felt like I bombed. And I came off the stage. I cried on my mom's shoulder, and she was already crying. And I said, "What are you crying about?" I cannot believe I did that. I was beating myself up, flogging myself. And she said, "Meg, that was one of the most beautiful things I had ever experienced." I go, what are you talking about? And she said, all of the athletes with special needs, they were repeating every line you said. It was as if you did it on purpose, that you would sing, then it was a call and response, and the whole stand erupted with you, and they all the kids loved it. And I thought, oh my God, this is such a lesson for us as writers, that's just to trust our desires, they're safe, trust our expressions that want to come through us, they're safe, they're needed. And because we never know what the divine is up to. So that was what I would say the biggest lesson for writers and entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I love that. Mic drop.
Mic drop. Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Tina.
Well, thank you for joining us on today's episode with Meg on the Enlightened Misfits podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with somebody that you feel that would gain knowledge from listening. Make sure you check out all of her links below in the description box if you're listening to this on YouTube, or if you're or I should say, watching this on YouTube and listening to us wherever you listen to your podcast. All of her links to connect with her are in the bottom in the description box. So stay tuned for more captivating conversations in the future. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week, and I will see you next time.
Thank you for joining us on another enlightening episode on the Enlightened Misfits podcast. If you are a current or inspiring to be fempreneur, suffering from the fear of being seen and or feel very triggered when you're building your business, reach out to me at The Mermaid Light about my Rich and Resilient Biz Baddies. This is a collective text message Voxer support group designed to help you heal your triggers and turn imposter syndrome into bad bitch energy. If you resonate with our conversations and insight, don't forget to subscribe, rate the show, and leave a review. Your feedback fuels our mission. Remember, your journey to unwavering certainty and purpose is ongoing. So please make sure you stay connected with us on social media. Keep manifesting greatness in your life. Until next time, this is Lauren from the Enlightened Misfits podcast. Stay enlightened, stay inspired, and keep manifesting your extraordinary path.